On the national news this afternoon, soldiers' tanks move into Rivers State Government House. And on the African news, Congo, Rwanda presidents call for ceasefire in East Democratic Republic of Congo. On the foreign scene, Russia and Ukraine launch air attacks after Putin-Trump call. In business, NNPCL loses bid to stop Dangote's 100 billion naira suit. And finally, on the sport news, Chile completes First Eagles training with 22 players. Now the news in detail. President Bola Tinubu last evening declared a state of emergency in Rivers State in a nationwide broadcast, citing the need to restore law and order. Tinubu announced the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy Mrs. Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the House of Assembly of Rivers State for an initial 6 months. Therefore, Tinubu announced the nomination of retired Vice Admiral Ibas as the Rivers State Administrator to steer the affairs of the state, after which soldiers took over the Rivers Government House in Port Harcourt. Also in the news this afternoon, the 4 tax bills transmitted to the National Assembly by President Tinubu in October 2024 were passed yesterday on the 3rd reading in the House of Representatives. After a delay of about 3 months, which included public hearings and the receipt of memorandum from concerned individuals, the National Assembly finally resumed work on the bills 3 weeks ago. The bills were overwhelmingly voted on by the lawmakers and passed with Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. Meanwhile, the next step will see the bills forwarded to President Tinubu for assent after passing through the Senate. And on the Nigerian-Cameroon issue, the Senate has raised an ad hoc committee to investigate claims that Cameroon has illegally annexed Nigeria's mangrove islands and maritime territories. The Senate also called on President Tinubu to take immediate action to safeguard Nigeria's territorial waters and secure the country's oil assets, which are more than 2,560 oil wells located within the disputed mangrove islands in Akwa Ibom State. Additionally, Senate leaders have pledged to engage the president in discussions to explore diplomatic solutions to the ongoing crisis. Moving on to the African news, presidents of Congo and neighboring Rwanda met on Tuesday in Qatar for their first direct talks since Rwanda-backed M23 rebels seized 2 major cities in the mineral-rich eastern Congo earlier this year. The 3 governments said in a statement that the meeting between Congo's President Felix and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame to discuss the insurgency was mediated by Qatar. Meanwhile, Congo and Rwanda reaffirmed their commitment to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. But the joint statement offered no specifics on how the ceasefire would be implemented or monitored. A diplomat who briefed on the meeting said both Paul and Felix had formally requested Qatar's mediation for the talks, which the diplomat said were informal and aimed at building trust rather than resolving all outstanding issues. Moving on to the foreign scene, Russia and Ukraine launched air attacks damaging each other's infrastructure after Putin rejected a U.S. proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. In a recent development, Ukrainian President Zelensky says Russia targeted civilian infrastructure overnight, including a hospital in Sumy. Putin agreed to a 30-day pause in attacks on energy infrastructure during a call with Donald Trump on Tuesday, but rejected a fuller ceasefire. Meanwhile, talks on Ukraine will continue on Sunday in Saudi Arabia, according to the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. Also, Putin and Trump also agreed that Ukraine and Russia would swap 175 prisoners each day. Still on the foreign scene, NASA astronaut Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, who were left stranded in the space for months due to technical issues, have finally returned to the Earth. The duo landed safely on Wednesday as SpaceX Dragon Freedom splashed down off the coast of Florida, ending a mission that was supposed to last just 8 days but stretched to 9 months. Recall that Williams and Wilmer had traveled to the International Space Station in June 2024 aboard Boeing's Starliner spacecraft for its first crew test flight. If you are just joining us, you are listening to the World News at Honor 103.5 FM Ibadan. Do not forget to follow us on all the social media handles at Honor 103.5 FM. You can also listen live on the Radio Garden app at Honor FM Ibadan. Now to the business report. The Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission's request to join the lawsuit filed by Dangote Petroleum Refinery seeking to stop the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and oil marketers from importing refined petroleum products into the country. Justice Inyang Ekwer dismissed the Commission's application yesterday while delivering a ruling in the suit, stating that the dispute could be effectively determined without the inclusion of the FCCPC. Justice Ekwer specifically held that the FCPC was not a relevant or necessary party and rejected its application. It also sought 100 billion naira in damages against Nimdra for allegedly continuing to import licenses to NNPCL and other companies, among other reliefs. In entertainment, the Senate has passed through second reading a bill seeking to amend the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023 to require social media platforms to establish physical offices within the country. Leading the debate, Senator Nwoko noted that Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, with over 220 million people, has a significant digital presence, ranking first in Africa and second globally in terms of social media usage, spending an average of 3 hours and 46 minutes daily online, according to a global web index. The bill also proposes new regulations for bloggers operating in Nigeria. Speaking on the bill, Senate President Godswill Akpabio acknowledged that while having a local address for digital platforms is beneficial, the regulation of bloggers requires careful consideration. And finally, in sports, head coach Eric Chelle yesterday began his proverbial journey of 1,000 miles with the Super Eagles by holding its first complete training with 22 players ahead of the expected 2026 FIFA World Cup Group C qualifier against the Rwanda on Friday. Following the arrival of all invited players by US-based New England Revolution midfielder Yusuf Al-Hassan, Chelle conducted his first official training with the Super Eagles ahead of the crucial Match Day 5 encounter against Group C leaders Rwanda. They were later joined on Monday night by Simon Moses, Victor Boniface, Raphael Onyedika, among others. And that'll be all for now on the World News at noon on Honor 103.5 FM. Before we go, here is a recap of the major stories. On the national news this afternoon, we informed you that soldiers and tanks have been moved into the Rivers State Government House. And on the African news, Rwanda and Congo presidents are meeting in Doha, calling for ceasefire in East Democratic Republic of Congo. On the foreign scene, Russia and Ukraine launch air attacks after Putin-Trump call. In business, NNPCL has lost bid to stop Dangote's 100 billion naira suit. And finally, on the sport news, Chelle has completed the first Eagles training with 22 players. For Eyewitness Report, news mentions and news commercials, contact the Honor FM newsroom at 0817-675-5555 or 0913-600-0111. 1035. You can also visit our website at www.honorfm1035.net for more information. The news was compiled and edited by Anulu Akpo Ido.